Make sure to share today's video over on social media. And if you go on Twitter, you can tag me at Matthew Petey, and I give shout outs to all of you that do so. So send it to a friend, send it to a family member, put it in a Facebook group, help grow this channel. And like I said, tag me at Matthew Petey. And I give shout outs, right? The Brown Tiger is definitely one of our most avid sharers on Twitter. Billy Lingerl is without a doubt the GOAT at it, never misses a video. Shout out to you, Billy. Always appreciate your support on the channel. And Joshua Miller is right there on the podium as well. So join the Shares Club by hitting today's share button and sending it to Twitter and tagging me at Matthew Petey. You know the NFL offseason is here when things are getting a bit slow. Minicamp's starting to wrap up for some teams, and for some other teams it's already over. And we get some Adam Schefter tweets about maybe a Stefon Diggs trade on the horizon. I mean, he did not spell it out, but he appears, and that's Diggs, to be disgruntled in Buffalo. So we're going to have some fun on today's show. It's June. Don't take anything too seriously. And we'll talk about whether or not the Browns, who are always good for a blockbuster trade, see Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Zadarius Smith, all within the last 13, 14 months or so, are going to pull off another blockbuster trade. But it all started this morning when Adam Schefter tweeted out, Bills head coach Sean McDermott told reporters today that he is very concerned that wide receiver Stefon Diggs is not at Buffalo's mandatory minicamp today. Seems pretty cut and dry, right? Black and white. Stefon Diggs is not at Buffalo's mandatory minicamp today. Well, about an hour later, Schefter tweeted out something else, and it doesn't really correlate or back up his last tweet. Stefon Diggs' agent said his client is in Buffalo, has been in Buffalo since yesterday morning, took his physical, met with the head coach and GM the past 2 days, and the Pro Bowl wide receiver will be there for the entirety of the minicamp. To me, I sort of read that as Stefon Diggs' agent wrote something out and sent it over to Schefter to tweet out, as a good publicist would do, kind of like an entourage, trying to put out a fire around Vinny for sleeping with a lady of the night. And maybe he is. I don't know if he's at mandatory minicamp. I didn't think this would be something we'd have to debate, though, right? Is he at mandatory minicamp? Or is he not, right? This doesn't feel like a very tough question to answer. Did you see him there, or did you not see him there? But the point remains, if Stefon Diggs is skipping out a mandatory minicamp, it's usually for one reason. He doesn't like his contract. But that really isn't the reason here, because he just got a 4-year, $96 million contract extension. That makes up 99% of holdouts for minicamp. The other 1%, they're disgruntled and they don't like the team they are on and they want to get traded. So if that is the case here, well, let's sort of break down the idea of Stefon Diggs potentially getting traded and whether or not Cleveland would be a good fit for Stefon Diggs if it ever gets to that point. Now, you guys know I love to look at the contract side of things before we get really too deep in the weeds on any trade idea, and we can almost kind of stop right here. $45 million-ish in dead cap hit over the next 2 years if you were to trade Stefon Diggs. That's not good. I mean, the cap savings are virtually nothing, $1.6 million. Now, that's all Buffalo's fault. I mean, that's all on Buffalo's tab. If a team trades for Stefon Diggs, they'll take on his contract, but his base salary for this year, which is what the team would owe him, is just $1.1 million. They kept the base salary low. They kind of backloaded the contract, the Andrew Berry style. So from a financial standpoint, it's doable for another team like Cleveland or anyone else interested in Stefon Diggs. But from Buffalo's side of things, why would they want to trade one of their best players, who is not slowing down, and take on a $45 million dead cap hit? I don't see any win for Buffalo in this scenario other than getting something for Stefon Diggs if they think he's about to fall off a cliff and they want to incur the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history. Matt Ryan's number one, and it was right around $45-ish million. So at the end, do you think Stefon Diggs will end up getting traded? Yes or no? Before I give you my prediction, I want to hear from everyone watching in the comment section if you think he ends up actually getting dealt. I'm about 95, and maybe that's even a bit on the lower side, certain that Stefon Diggs is not going to get traded. And if he does get traded, I'm about 99% certain that it won't be to Cleveland. The Browns are just so loaded at the wide receiver spot, and after minicamp, you have to imagine that vibes are good in Berea around Elijah Moore and DPJ as these teams' second and third options after Amari Cooper. But we are talking about this guy, Andrew Berry. Like I said at the start of the video, the guy is blockbuster Berry. Watson, in order, Cooper, Watson, Elijah Moore, Zadarius Smith. Am I forgetting another big trade? Shout out to Mac Wilson for Winovich, but he loves trades. He's addicted to trades. He goes to Trade Addicts Anonymous all the time, I'm sure. So if there's any GM out there that would pick up the phone, like I bet Andrew Berry, if he's on vacation right now after minicamp, he would definitely sneak off from his family, call Billy or Brandon Beane or whatever in Buffalo, and go like, all right, I'm not curious. I'm just wondering, asking for a friend, hypothetically speaking, what would it cost to get Stefon Diggs to Cleveland? So if I had to take a stab at it for what the Browns are able to offer, you don't have a first-round pick, and that's probably what Buffalo would want if it ever got to that point. So all I can really offer in a fair-ish trade package is Donovan Peoples-Jones and a second-round pick. That's probably not what Buffalo would want. Can you imagine trying to sell Bills fans on moving on from Stefon Diggs for a second-round pick and a young former sixth-round pick who's definitely up and coming but has not gone over 1,000 yards yet in his career? I doubt the Bills would be interested in doing this trade. And as for the Browns, well, there's some pros and cons to it, right? One, Stefon Diggs is a really good football player. 3 years so far in Buffalo and 3 straight seasons of 1,200-plus yards, 21 touchdowns over the last 2 years. He's a big play machine. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. Sure hands. He really checks every single box you look for. He doesn't have maybe the top speed of all-time, track stars, but he's got great speed. He is Stefon Diggs, right? He is one of the best receivers in football. I'm not here to sell you on that. But what I am here to sell you on is maybe an unpopular opinion. That is, if Diggs is unhappy in Buffalo, why is that going to be different in Cleveland? He wasn't happy in Minnesota. He got traded to the Bills. They've had a lot of success in Buffalo. Have they won a Super Bowl? No. But they have definitely been more than just one-and-dones in the postseason. They have won some playoff games in Buffalo. So why do I want this potential headache coming to Cleveland where after one season with the Browns, if the Browns don't win the Super Bowl, is Stefon Diggs going to do the same thing next year in Cleveland, right? Not go to minicamp because they didn't win enough postseason games. Like, it's hard to win in the playoffs, and this is kind of loser talk here, but if your star player is holding out and it's not contract related, it makes you wonder if there's something really deep going on in Buffalo beyond the surface that's going to be an all-time 30 for 30 in 20 years, or is he just a bit of a diva and it's really difficult to please him and it's Super Bowl or bust? And if that's the case, you're going to be moving out for some pretty good assets for hopefully a Super Bowl, and if you don't win it, you're in the same spot that Buffalo's in right now. Now, who do you think wins this trade, by the way? Kind of going back to it, the Browns or the Bills? I would say the Browns win this trade if you poll just general NFL fans. You're swapping DPJ for Stefon Diggs, and all it cost you is a second-round pick, which is valuable, but it's Stefon Diggs. And DPJ's younger, and he's probably got more years left in the tank, but I still think Diggs probably comes out as the number one asset in this trade here, and the Browns are the winners. I mean, it's no question that Diggs improves this team, and it sounds silly to pass on. So if the trade was really in front of me, I think I'd have to accept it if that really was the offer that Andrew Berry sent over to Buffalo in his hypothetical situation here, because it is Stefon Diggs, and we looked at the numbers, and we saw what a great receiver he is. But could I interest you in Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? Someone who's coming off an 839-yard season and 3 touchdowns and is on the come-up, and you've got a really good young receiver room building in Cleveland. But on the flip side, I mean, could you imagine an offense with Deshaun Watson in shotgun, Nick Chubb to his side, Amari Cooper to his left, Stefon Diggs to his right, and David Njoku at the tight end spot? We haven't even gotten to Elijah Moore, let alone a top 3 offensive line this would be a Pro Bowl lineup. Would anyone be surprised if all these players were on different teams and they were all starting in the Pro Bowl? No, they've all been Pro Bowl players multiple times. You would be building a fantasy football team in Cleveland if you got Stefon Diggs, which is why it's tough to even veto the idea of trading for him. But he's 29 years old, so you're not getting him for much longer at this elite level. Still more than just one season of great play out of Stefon Diggs. But if you think you have something in DPJ, maybe it's just beachfront property in Oklahoma, or maybe it's a really good receiver down the line that won't cost you as much as, Stefon Diggs' contract and giving up a second-round pick. So at the end, there's a 95% chance that Stefon Diggs does not get dealt, and this debate we're about to have in the comment section is all over a hypothetical situation that's likely not going to happen. But I also thought Deshaun Watson would not get traded to the Browns in January 2022. And here we are now. So never rule anything out in the NFL. It's a blockbuster league filled with huge moves that come unexpected at all times. So if Stefon Diggs does get traded, I don't think the Browns will be one of those teams lining up. But I also have learned a thing or two from Andrew Berry, which is never rule out the Browns absolutely. If you enjoyed today's show, consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. Plus, you can join nearly 20,000 strong. We're less than 100 subs away from reaching 20K in subscribers. Help us reach that milestone by clicking that subscribe button down below and getting free Browns content all year long. Before we get on out of here, pick a card time. We have the always wonderful producer Rolly with us today behind the camera. Rolly, do you want to give us your card prediction? Now, before if you don't mind, Rolly came in saying, I know what the card is. And I was like, oh, you saw it? He goes, no. In my head, I saw it.
I closed my eyes, took a deep breath just like this, and I visualized the card so well that it is going to be the 5 of diamonds.
5 of diamonds. Okay, some background stats here. We have only had 3 hearts drawn. The last one was June 2nd. So it's a drought for the hearts. So I'll end that drought right now. Give me the 7 of hearts. One last cut for good measure. What'd you say?
5 of diamonds.
Too bad. 6 of clubs.
Oh.
6 of clubs. 6 of clubs is a second timer. The first time we had the 6 of clubs was on May 23rd. Okay, that's it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off and see everyone later.